Welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is understanding your customer with the use of Google Tools. So we're so glad to have you here with us, whatever time zone you're on, or whether or not you're joining live or viewing the on-demand recording. So I'm Matt Wagner, Chief Program Officer at Main Street America, and I'm so excited to be able to welcome you to the webinar. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with our organization, Main Street America, we lead a national network of grassroots organizations committed to strengthening their main streets through preservation-based economic development. And while many of our resources support community leaders and business serving organizations, we also provide a number of tools and education for small business owners within these commercial corridors. Excuse me. And this has really led us to this amazing partnership with our Grow with Google digital coaches and brings us together today for this webinar. So just a few words of background before we dive in, okay? So first, launched in 2017, the Grow with Google program really helps people across the United States grow their skills, careers, and businesses by offering free tools, trainings, and events. And so far, they've provided free digital skills training to 8 million Americans and counting through a network of 8,500 partners. And then in our partnership with Grow with Google, we've built a team of 10, and I'm throwing in like amazing digital coaches. These people are really special and super smart, okay, to lead free trainings and empower small businesses with skills to grow. This partnership grew out of a need that we saw, and I'm sure many of you, small business owners, have experienced day in, day out, that there's this sort of need for increased tailored support for small business owners, especially coming out of the pandemic when the pace of change was so quick and there were so many sort of new trends and new norms being created. So you all know more than anyone that most businesses ended up having to pivot during COVID. In fact, American Express did this big survey and it showed that 76% of small business owners ended up shifting their business models during the pandemic, and most of those anticipated having to do it another year. So at Main Street America, we ended up conducting a lot of different research and surveys to see how we could help and find that among most pressing needs was businesses were really looking for more digital tools to survive and thrive. How could they better meet their customer demands, whether through their own bricks physical stores or in an online situation? So outside of these virtual workshops, our coaches also provide in-person training to small business owners in rural communities across the country. These come in the form of group classroom settings, virtual sessions, and even one-on-one consultations. This afternoon session or evening, again, depending on what time zone you're on, is the second in a series of free workshops available virtually to businesses across the country. So our first session, and if you were able to join us for that, fantastic, was all about increasing your holiday sales with the use of Google Tools. That was held in September and is now available on demand on our YouTube channel. So would encourage you all to check that out when you get a chance. And if you did see it, maybe go back. Maybe there's some things you missed or you want to relook at again. Our next and final session is going to be entitled Top 10 Tools to Grow Your Business. And that's going to be held live on Tuesday, November 14th. So to find out more information, and of course to register or to view the on-demand recordings, please visit mainstreet.org/grow with Google. So that's how you can get more familiar with our work, but also be able to register for the next workshop or webinar. Today, what we're going to do is the team's going to walk you through a number of different tools and resources that will help you to create stronger customer-focused market strategies to reach your audience and turn them into loyal customers. I was recently working with small business owners in New Mexico and South Carolina, and this particular subject, I don't know because we were anticipating having this session or what, but it just continued to come up with so many different sort of economic and tourism related shifts, people were always asking, like, how do I better understand who my customers are? So this is perfect timing in so many ways. You're going to hear from two of our Grow with Google digital coaches. And the first is Lindsay Newland. She's our Iowa coach. And Lindsay is the founder and owner of the Newland Company, a graphic design and marketing firm, and a business and marketing specialist at Main Street, Ottumwa. We're also going to be joined by Janet Hearn. She's our Ohio coach. And Janet is currently the co-founder and owner of Future Ready Consulting, a business digital consulting firm. She has recently retired from Miami University, go Redhawks, I'm from Ohio, where she was a senior director of Miami University Regional's EEC campus and a senior phys instructor with over 30 years of experience in education and digital systems building. So you're in great hands tonight for sure. Also contributing in today's presentation, but unfortunately is not able to join us, is April Ross. And April is our Grow with Google Georgia coach and owner of BTV Network, a local television station where she produces and directs 5 original TV shows interviewing local community leaders. So she certainly helped to inspire this work. All right. So before we dive in, I want to point you toward a few other free resources available for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and business supporting organizations. First, you can reach out directly to any of our Grow with Google coaches. So today's coaches, their contact information is listed here, as you can see, or you can visit the Grow with Google coaches webpage listed here as well. And second, we invite you to check out our recently launched Main Street Business Insight podcast. And I'm sorry, folks, this is a total shameless plug. If you can see me, I'm sporting this shirt. Please subscribe. We certainly think it's a great opportunity to, one, share the stories and journeys of a really critical aspect of our nation's economy. And that's all of you, America's small business owners and entrepreneurs. It's your stories and the ability to gain insights from one another that's really the foundation of the podcast. So please subscribe, Main Street Business Insight Podcast. And you can find more information about these resources and more about our work at mainstreet.org. Okay, so finally, a few housekeeping. Got to have those in a webinar. So first, this webinar is being recorded to view later. So we'll add the recording to our website and YouTube channel, and we'll email that out to all the registrants and attendees. Second, if you're watching this webinar with a group, whether live or via the recording, please use the QR code to the right to list all the viewers and help us to track attendance. That would just be so super helpful to us. I'll pause here for a second, give you a chance to do that. Hopefully you get that little tool on your phone and can QR it and do that. And then next, please note that closed captioning is available. You can click enable or disable based on your preferences, of course. And then finally, if you have questions, you can email your questions directly to our coaches. Again, their contact information is listed here. You've got their emails. And we have a smaller group tonight, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat. That's kind of a cool aspect of this. One, the chance to ask what's top of mind, but also maybe to learn from one another, because maybe you've got the same question as other folks. And we'll make sure that the coaches get to them at the end of the session. And so with that, I've got the pleasure now to turn it over to the team. And I think Lindsay's going to kick things off. So again, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Matt. Happy to be here with everybody from Southeast Iowa. I love this program because we get to join in a conversation and learn from other coaches across the state. So it's a very exciting program, and we're both, I know I can probably speak for the whole team that we're excited to be here with you. Tonight, we're going to be covering understanding your customer with the use of Google tools. And the agenda for tonight is, what is a buyer persona? We'll be talking about, okay, what is it and why is it important to you? Why should you care? How to develop your messaging and your voice with your that'll build on your buyer persona. How Google Bard can simplify buyer personas for you, even write them for you, save you time and money developing that material. And then how Google Bard can help you learn about your audience. It's very surprising how much information Bard can actually give you about your audience. And once you know who you're speaking to, it's a really great way for you to learn more about them and be able to kind of speak their language as well. And then towards the end, we'll recap and we'll cover some resources. So what is a buyer persona and why is it important? If you were my buyer persona, if you're a small business owner and I coach small businesses and entrepreneurs nearly every day. And so if you were my buyer persona, I would reasonably assume that you are a little short on time, that you are getting really good at making a dollar stretch, that you are passionate, maybe a little contrarian. I would say that you feel very deeply about your community and you want your family to grow up in a place that has meaning to them, and that where you're deeply rooted, and that you're part of that place, and you get to go to the ball games and sit next to people you know. And so those are the things that I would say about you if you were my buyer persona. And that is the magic of having a buyer persona, is that when you get to know your buyer persona, your customer, you're able to speak directly to them. You're able to cut right through the noise. And the idea of specifically how it impacts your business is having a buyer persona means that you're able to talk to just this one group of people and you're able to speak their language. But if you're trying to broad market to everybody, what you're doing is you're spreading all of your resources really thin because you're trying to reach all of those people. And when you're able to pool all of those resources and talk to just one audience, then it's not only a lot more effective, but it allows you to convert more people in your business, and that means dollar signs for you. So one of my very favorite quotes, I love Seth Godin, definitely a huge fan of his and his books. He's been around for several decades now. He's a marketer. He says, great marketers don't make stuff, they make meaning. And one of my favorite stories is an Instagram video that I watched. And it was a gentleman who was talking to his two teenage sons. And he asked them a question: what do you remember about your 8th birthday? And they said, oh yeah, I remember my 8th birthday party. And he asked them, well, what did you get? What did you receive for your birthday? And neither of them were able to answer. But then he asked them, well, who was there and what did we do? And they were able to tell in detail all of the stories about what they did that day, who was there, how it made them feel, what it meant to them. And that is really the nuts and bolts of why we're doing what we're doing as marketers, and why we're here today to talk about why does this stuff matter? It matters because we're in the process of making meaning for people, and when they are able to emotionally connect to what you're offering, your sales or your service or your products, then they are loyal. They'll become loyal customers, sometimes for life. When you're able to identify your customers, market segmentation, these 4 words may mean different things to different people, but demographics kind of covers, all right, where do they live? How old are they? How much money do they make? How many kids do they have? That kind of thing. And then psychographics gets directly to how do they feel? What are their ideals? What are their values? How do they feel about things? And so demographics is something that you would think about if you were to meet somebody initially and you were introducing yourself and telling them about yourself. You would ask them questions also about, okay, well, where do they live? Maybe not how much money they make, but okay, tell me about your job. Tell me about how many kids you have and things. Psychographics is the thing that gets a little bit deeper, and that's really the psychographics that you're after, or the ideals or values that you're after. are going to help you have a deeper conversation with that person, because the psychographics is described when you're really getting to know someone, and then you kind of open up a little bit and you share, okay, what are my values, what are my opinions about these things. That's psychographics. And when you can consider those things in your business and in your marketing, then you're able to have a deeper level of conversation with that person. Geographics is what it sounds like. It labels, where that person lives. And then behaviors really speak to how do people act? Do they return to you as a company, and do they purchase regularly from you? A lot of times certain behaviors will be linked very heavily to demographics, like age group. There's certain things that Gen Zs will do and millennials will do. So there's different behaviors and purchasing behaviors that somebody will have depending on their demographics as well. So let's tell a story about Shalon and Sharika. They're the founders of TW Tote. And I love this story because what Shalon did was, he's a working professional, and he wanted to take his lunch. He was tired of taking his lunch in a paper bag. And he looked out on the market, didn't find anything that really spoke to him, didn't really function the way that he wanted. So he decided to create it. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people that are looking around their community, and they're seeing a gap in the market, and they say, well, I think I could do that. And they step up, or they go gain the skills that they need to bring that to market. And here we have a company called TW Tote. And it speaks directly to what entrepreneurs often have. They often have the passion and the ideas. I haven't met a single entrepreneur yet who has a burning passion to get their idea out into the world. I haven't met one yet that doesn't have passion and ideas, and they're an excitement and joy to bring this idea out into the world. They had a product that people need. A lot of times, when you see a gap in the market and you realize that there isn't a product that's going to solve that problem for you, then a lot of times you can assume that it's very similar to being in a crowd of people. And if you raise your hand and ask a question, you can relatively assume that there's other people in the room that were thinking the same thing. And so you can kind of think of the same thing when it comes to, where Shalon and Sharika decided to produce this product. They had minimal marketing knowledge, so they kind of ran into a little bit of a gap where they had the great idea, they had the engineering skills, but they didn't have that marketing knowledge to get that pushed out to a broader audience. A broad overview of what marketing really is you create that meaning and through storytelling. You have building relationships, trust, and credibility, and then influencing customers along their way. Now, this is a very simplified way to view marketing, but it really is this simple. And think about that relationship that you're having with that person that you're talking. When you get to know that person, they almost become your friend. And if you have a buyer persona, that sometimes it's helpful to name them with names of someone you actually know. And so when you're putting your captions out on your social media, anything that's listed on your website, you feel like you can envision that person and speak directly to them, and like you're having a conversation with them. Well, what do we do when we have friends? We establish a relationship by creating meaning, and we tell stories about ourselves so we can get to know one another. And then we build that relationship through trust and credibility. We answer a person's phone calls. We answer them when they email us. When they establish a conversation with us, we continue that on, or we answer their questions. And then we try to influence customers along their journey. And if that was a friend, you would do things that were very supportive of that friend. By thinking about them if you're a person that goes to market to stock your store with Christmas items, you are likely thinking about that person. What would that person think when you're picking things off the shelf? So just be thinking of it that way. Branding goes actually beyond just logo and colors. And even though when you're starting a business, okay, initially we start with a logo, we start with colors, and we think that it stops there. But really, I'm a huge fan of value-based marketing and putting yourself out there to meet the need of people, and but also even sharing some of your own values through that process. And so, just as an exercise, take a look at this photo of Shalon and Sharika. There's a lot of things that you could personally assume about this couple, and if they were to put this in their advertising, there's a lot that you can really draw out of that picture that say, oh, that's a lot like me. And I think when you're looking at advertising and when you're looking at any kind of marketing, what you're doing is you're seeing it through a lens of how you view the world. And so you'll often pick out things or pick up on things or resonate with things that people are marketing with. And just because of that, that's very similar to your own, it mirrors your own value. And so by being a person who puts your values out there, you're allowing people to align with you and to purchase from you or not purchase from you. And it's definitely not a bad thing. I never recommend anything political, of course, but it's not a bad thing that people look into your marketing or they look into what you have on your website and they say, this person isn't for me, because that person is probably the most difficult person to deal with anyway. So you want people that are your champions. They're cheering for you. They're purchasing from you. And so some things about Shalon and Sharika here is they are working professionals, and that probably says something about their income level. It looks like they are health conscious. It looks like maybe they care about the environment. They're bringing reusable containers to work with them. So there's a lot of things that you can assume and draw out of this picture, and we definitely want those things to be reflected in their marketing. So if I were to choose a buyer persona for TW Tote, it would be Metro Michaela. And this is a very brief description of her. She's mid-30s, female, single. She lives in a large city. She's college educated. Well, almost all of the things that we talked about on the last slide with the picture of Shalon and Sharika. Okay, if they're a working professional, you can reasonably assume that they're college educated. Well, so is Metro Michaela. She works in fashion, so she's looking for. She probably appreciates things that look nice, and that's definitely the product that Shalon and Sharika produced. She lives in a large city. She shops locally, which having a small company that built their product from scratch probably would resonate with her. So there's a lot of similarities there. And when they're putting out their marketing and their advertising dollars, they can really focus in on talking specifically to Metro Michaela. And it wouldn't I always recommend for businesses to have 3 to 5 buyer personas. So that way you can switch and you're not always talking to the exact same person. Start with 1 or 2 and then build that out, 3 to 5. I would say no more than 5. And then, because then you end up seeming like you have an identity crisis, like you're talking to too many people. And then you're just spreading things out too soon. So how do we develop our messaging and our voice, and what exactly does that mean? It really does mean, so I'll give you an example. My daughter is a second year in college. And when we got in the car to go to her college orientation, she very quickly turned the radio down. She knew exactly who her audience was in that moment. And she knew that she should not be playing that music in front of her mom. And we do this regularly and very naturally all the time. If you're at a family reunion and you're talking to your grandma, you're going to speak differently to that person than you are if you're in a business meeting. If you're marketing a kid's dentist, you're going to speak differently than if it's a lawyer's office. And so we do this naturally. And so a lot of times people will say, well, I don't know what to say. And a lot of times, if you had Metro Michaela in your mind when you were speaking, there's a certain cadence and a certain thing that you would say, and there's certain things you wouldn't say as well. So that's where we are with developing our messaging and our voice. If you were to engage your customers, on the right-hand side, you have the marketing funnel. You have awareness to consideration to conversion and loyalty. And a lot of businesses, they spend a lot of time on awareness, just letting people know that you exist. And of course, you want a lot of people to know that you exist. But when we're talking, being a little bit more conversational, that's when we're expecting our customers to be in that consideration phase. And sometimes people move very quickly through the consideration phase and on to conversion. Sometimes it takes them a little bit longer. And so we want to listen and learn from them. We want to be communicating and delivering value, and then we want to develop those relationships. So listening and learning, determining what your pain points are. If you have a product that is like TW Tote, the lunch bag, you're determining someone's pain point. So if they TW Tote specifically, they started out with just the lunch bags, and but then they quickly realized that their customers were looking for more than just the lunch bag. They were looking for maybe an overnight bag or something like that. So they decided to develop more products from this original SKU or this original offering, and they were able to address those challenges. They found out what people were searching for online, and then they developed their company based on that. When you're communicating with your customers, you are sharing valuable content. What you're doing here is you're furthering that conversation. You're helping them consider you, and maybe even shortening that cycle of consideration and getting them over into conversion. When you're able to educate and inspire someone, there's a little bit of a law of reciprocity. When you offer something for free, people are more likely to feel obligated to circle back around and purchase from you or pay you for that advice that you gave. And then on top of that, you're able to establish expertise. You're able to demonstrate to people that you know what you're talking about. You have, in this case, it would be the fashion sense and maybe the durability of the product. If they're able to demonstrate different ways and different uses for their product. So sharing that valuable content, it puts you in a position where if somebody sees your content today and 2 weeks from now they consider, I was actually thinking about getting a lunch bag, and I've been looking everywhere for something that works and keeps my cold food cold and my hot food hot, then they might circle back around and say, oh, I saw that content, that valuable content, and then they know exactly where to look. If you're a service provider, if you're a graphic designer like I am, if you're sharing valuable content, and so the person that I'm speaking to may not want to hire me today, but a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, they know exactly where to go to if I've given them some valuable insights and something that helps them build their business. Developing relationships with people. I think that most people know how to develop relationships, but I think that maybe you forget, or maybe people overlook the fact that developing a relationship with that buyer persona is really important. And it's just as important as developing a relationship with your best friend. And you'll help them solve their problems. If they got a defective product, or if they have questions or issues, or maybe they have issues with a different company and you can help them solve that problem. Just having conversations with people, like picking up the phone and answering emails, is a really valuable way. It's such a simple thing to do, but just treating people like they're humans is a really great way for you to differentiate yourself above the competition. And helping people evaluate you through your Google business profile, which we'll talk about in just a moment. One way that you can help your business is this works even if you've been in business for a while, kind of going back to the beginning. If you're struggling with your marketing, and creating a brand positioning statement. What you're doing is you're saying who you serve, what you offer, what differentiates you, and your promise or your mission. Seems like such a simple thing to put together, but it really has a lasting effect on you being able to articulate who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it. And I run an entrepreneurship course, and this is one of the very first things that we have them do on day one is to create a brand positioning statement. So that here's a great template for you. So we have for audience, who is your customer, your challenge, or your need, or that pain point. What is your company name? Provides what's your product? Because, brand, promise, or mission. And what this is doing is it's helping people, not only you align with the right customers, but help your customers understand if you are for them. And when there's so many companies out there to consider and to learn all the details on, and everything is just gets so noisy, this really helps you in your marketing understand what the basis of your marketing really is. So I'll give you a really great example for that's specific to TW Tote, since we've been talking about them this whole time. It's for working professionals who need a stylish and functional lunch bag. TW Tote provides fashionable insulated vegan leather totes because everyone deserves a luxurious and functional lunch bag the entire family can use. So this is just a really great way for you to establish or even return to just what is it that you're doing? Why are you doing it? And who are you doing it for? Sometimes we need to be reminded of that, even if we've been in business for a little while. Okay, so what are customers looking for, and how do we get connected with them? How do your customers search for the products you offer? All right, it's a Google search. It's a pretty simple answer, and Google has now become a verb. Everyone says just Google it, and which is a wonderful, for as far as brand recognition. But I see the Google search specifically as a really great matchmaker. So we are all consumers all the time, and we are always looking every day of the week. We are looking for answers to our questions, or we're looking for a product that gives us what we need. And on the other side, we have business owners who are always looking for consumers. And so enter the Google search bar, and you are able to utilize that to use that to your advantage, as Google's the largest search engine in the world. So the very basic thing that you can do, one of the best things you can do, is get your free business profile on Google. It's google.com/business. And it actually has a lot more functionality than you would think. Google is going to pull together a business profile for you. Sometimes without your involvement, it's going to grab some information that lives online already about your business, and it will create a business profile. But it's really important that you go and you verify that profile and take control of that, so then you can add photos, take photos away. You can make sure that information is 100% accurate. And so that way people are able to search for you in the organic search, but also on maps as well. You're also able to use converting customers with online advertising. You're able to spend your advertising dollars that gets your business and the things that you offer, the services or the products that you offer, directly in front of the people who are searching. And so the idea here is to be the most relevant search result for when people are actually looking. So when they take action and they put that sentence or that question into the search bar, then your ad can be right in front of them at the very top of the search results. And I find that it's a very useful and very targeted ability to get in front of a broader audience. And there are obvious differences between Google Ads and social media ads, which we won't go into depth too much today. But if you have any questions about Google Ads, you can email or reach out to Janet or I, and then we'd be happy to share anything on that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to use Google Bard to simplify your buyer personas. And Janet is actually going to take over the second portion of this workshop.
All right. Well, thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay just dropped a ton of knowledge on us, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying all this and getting all this great knowledge from Lindsay, and I hope I can share a few tips and tricks with you as well. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment, you could put in chat where you're from, where you're joining us tonight. We thank you for giving us your time this evening. And if you'd like, you could tell us you're an owner of a small business, you're involved with Main Street. Just feel free to drop it in the chat as I'm talking along. We just love to know where everybody's from tonight. So thank you. I'm coming to you from the Cincinnati, Ohio area, a small suburb of Cincinnati. So I'm excited to be with you tonight. So I'm going to talk about Google Bard and how that could help you simplify using your buyer personas. And I hope everybody stays on till the end, because we have a guide that we're going to share with you to help you do all of these things that Lindsay talked about and that I'm going to talk about tonight. So that's cool. All right. We have somebody from Wyoming. We're Collins. This is awesome. All right. So if you need a little help tonight, if thinking about your buyer persona is a little overwhelming, we're going to provide a guide, as I said before, that you can just type in, fill in the type of customer that you believe that is your target audience. But if it's a little overwhelming to think about that, then we have a tool called Google Bard, where you can find that at bard.google.com. And you can use this as a starting point to help you determine your buyer personas. You can refine them as you see fit. If you don't agree with what Bard comes up with, then you should refine it. You should change it to what you know. But this will help you get started with your buyer personas. And we're going to provide the ways that you can do that. So Bard is an AI tool from Google. It is free. It should be available to you if you have a Google account. If you have a Google account through your employer may be blocking Bard, so you may not be able to access that. That's okay. If you have a personal Google account, you should be able to access it. If you're the domain manager of your personal business domain, you can go in and turn it on yourself if it happens to be turned off. So check that out as we go through tonight. I hope you'll at least take a look at Bard. If you go to Bard, you will see this this slide here that I have, this desktop, and I encourage you to just play with it to start off with. I know AI is a little scary for people. We're not sure where it's headed. It's really come on in the last year very hard. But one thing to remember is that AI has been around a lot longer than we think. Google, I believe, has been using AI in their products for a good 20 years. So it's not as new as some people might think. What is really new and exciting is it is now become accessible to everyone instead of just people that can afford all the high-end servers and all the processing. So that's what's really exciting, is now it's accessible to all of us and through Bard for free. So that's pretty cool. So I encourage you to play with this just to get started and see what you get back, where it's not, too intimidating or anything. They have some suggested prompts here. The key to any AI tool, but particularly Bard, is garbage in, garbage out. We've all heard of that. And so if we put a prompt in that doesn't explain to the AI what we really want to know, if we're not clear, if we don't give it context, then we're not going to get very good results. So what we're going to provide to you in the guide is some prompts that you can use to develop your personas. But one thing is to be patient with yourself and to kind of get the idea of what kind of prompts you need to write to be successful with this tool. That's going to be a whole career soon. Prompt engineering for AI is going to be a skill set that people are going to want to hire. And so we're going to have a whole new set of workers doing just that. All right, so let's look at a prompt example. And this again is a kind of a template you can use. So this would be something I would use. So I do marketing, or Lindsay might use, she does marketing. So what you want to do is say build a persona for, and you want a job title or consumer description here. So I want to build a persona for a small business owner. So I'm looking for small business owners who want to launch a service-oriented business. So that's the category or need that they have. And you'll notice this parallels kind of the brand statement we were talking about. Driven by a mission to deliver high quality services. You also put a geography here. Where is your persona going to reside, or where do they live? And they're going to deliver high quality service to underserved communities. So this is the person that I want to target with my messaging and marketing. This person aims to enhance their marketing campaigns and increase their presence on social media. So this is the exact prompt that I put into Bard, and this is what we got out. So this is a customer persona that I could market to. So this is Startup Sophia. She's a mid-30s female. She lives in a large city. She's a single mother of 2. She's starting a cleaning business. She gives back to the community, and she wants to offer high quality services to underserved areas. So I even have a picture of her. So as Lindsay explained, it's nice to have a picture in your mind of who we're talking to. So as I'm trying to find a customer to support in their marketing efforts, I am going to talk to Startup Sophia, because that is going to help me tailor my messaging. And this came out of Bard. So I didn't make this up. Bard made this up. So what are her pain points? And Bard provided this as well. Startup Sophia is short on time. She's struggling to connect to her target audience. She's a single mother, so she's juggling a busy life. Her potential customers don't know what services she offers, so she's not being clear to people what she can provide to them, and she's not seeing any results. So her business isn't growing the way that she had hoped. So these are the pain points I need to focus on. And once you understand your persona's pain points, now you can tailor your services or products to those pain points, as Lindsay also mentioned. So she's short on time, struggling to connect, juggling a busy life. So how can I meet her needs? I can show her how much time I can save her if she would hire me to do her marketing for her, or at least her social media, or maybe her ads, or I could handle her business profile, something like that. So I need to communicate that to her through my messaging and marketing and website. I need to show her case studies for other clients that are pleased with my work and are pleased at the savings they got to do other things in their business. I can share testimonials and reviews. I can deliver useful tips via social media that she could put in place right away. So I can provide that value on social media, so I can start to build the relationship and gain some trust, and then make personalized recommendations. So that piece did not come from Bard, the meeting her needs, but that is what you get out of having those personas and knowing that person that you're trying to speak to and understand. So one way, if you're trying to figure out the words to use on your website, in your copy, and your social media, is using a free tool that Google provides called Google Trends. And if you haven't played with this, wait till afterwards, because if you play with it now, you won't hear anything else I say. It's g.co/trends. So Google Trends will help you kind of determine those words that you should use. I did say I was in a small town in middle America, and you're going to get proof now because a train is going to go through right now. So moving goods across our country. So Google Trends will compare words for you. So for example, if Sophia, if she is my persona that I'm marketing to, do I want to talk about, saving time, or do I can put that in as a search. Do people search for saving time in my small business? You could put that as a search term, and you can change the word slightly to see exactly what people are searching for and what's most popular, because even using different words could determine people landing on your website versus someone else. So Google Trends is a great tool for that. So using Google Bard to learn more about your market. All right, we're going to give one more example, and this is more of a brick and mortar based business. This is going to be a smoothie shop. Okay, so I now run a smoothie shop, and I want to know who I should market to, who's my ideal customer. So I put in this prompt for Bard. I say I want you to build a buyer persona for a health conscious adult who's allergic to several foods. They want to find safe and healthy options for smoothies and snack items so they can eat better and lose weight. So that is the person I'm searching out. And I put that prompt in Bard. And this time we ask for multiple personas instead of just one. So we ask for 3. As Lindsay pointed out, eventually if you can get 3 to 5 personas, you don't want to market to everyone because then you market to no one. But you do want to market to maybe several different personas. Now, I don't expect that you can read this slide, so don't try to read the slide. The point is, in minutes, less than 5 minutes, I have a table of 3 personas that I can potentially market my smoothie business to. Sarah, Jessica, and Michael. And now I have a table. So what do I do with this now? Now I have 3 people to market to. Well, let me show you. So here are my 3 pictures for my 3 personas. And what I want to do is I want to find the similarities or commonalities that these 3 individuals have. So looking through the personas, I see that they trust and rely on wellness experts for advice. They watch health and wellness on YouTube. So that is the way that they get their information about health and wellness. They're willing to spend more on health food stores rather than the regular grocery. They prefer to use social media and email to get their information. They respond well to personalized content, and they prioritize convenience. So these 6 things are the commonalities between those 3 personas who are different ages, different genders, but these are the commonalities. So now, if I focus my marketing on these things, I will have a much better chance of drawing in the right customers for my business. So for example, we want to use images of doctors, yoga in our shop ads and our social media because that resonates with all 3 of those personas. We want to post tips and recipes on YouTube because they like to learn about health and wellness on YouTube. So I definitely want to put some time into that. I want to set up and hand out samples at the local health food stores and yoga studios because that is other places that these people have chosen to visit, and that will build trust. If they trust the local yoga establishment, then I hand out smoothies there. They're going to say, well, I trust this yoga place. Now I trust the smoothie place. You want to invite fitness bloggers to post on your sites and your social media because they trust fitness gurus. And you want to offer your expertise in groups that support fitness, yoga, clean eating, and food allergies. So by focusing your marketing towards the commonalities of those 3 personas, you are now reaching the appropriate customer with your messaging and drive them to your website and hopefully into your smoothie establishment. All right, we've given you a lot to think about. So these are things you can do to build and change your marketing up, but you have to know it's working. You don't want to just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what happens. Free tool Google Analytics will help you determine if what you're doing is working. In fact, g.co/analytics. You go to Google Analytics and you can hook up your website to Google Analytics. So all the traffic to your website is analyzed by Google Analytics and you'll know where it's coming from, who in general, who it is, the demographics. So you'll see if you chose correctly with your persona. You can tell if the YouTube is working and they're coming to your website from YouTube. You can tell if your social media is working. Is that social media driving traffic to your website? Google Analytics is how you're going to know that what you're doing is working. And you can course correct based on the data that you receive from Google Analytics. So what are your next steps? Next steps are we're going to provide a resource guide so that you can get started developing your personas and you can start marketing to the customer, ideal customer that wants to use your products or services. So let's do a quick recap and then we'll have a few minutes for questions, I believe. So how do we get people to be aware of our business and then convert to sales? That's where we're headed. You have to define your customers, brand your business, listen to your customers and learn what they need and want and what their pain points are, communicate and deliver value, and then develop those relationships and maintain them so that they will return as lifelong customers. To simplify the process of creating your buyer personas, you can ask Bard to tell you about your persona. You can use that information to build a marketing plan and then add supporting materials to your marketing to help your persona trust you more. So resources that are available, here it is. Here's our buyer persona guide where you can fill in your persona on your own. If you feel like you got a good handle on who your ideal customer is, then just go ahead and fill it in. But if you're sitting there going, my mind is blown, I don't know where to start, let Bard get you started with your buyer personas. And we do have those prompts in that guide. So snap that QR code or grab that, that link, and we'll probably be able to post that in the chat as well. So you'll have that. You can keep learning on YouTube. Grow with Google has a YouTube channel that is filled with tips and tricks for small businesses and all kinds of things. You can learn how to use some of these other products we've named today in more in depth. So check out that. And you know what? We'll take some questions now. We have about 7 minutes. So you could post your questions in the chat. I will ask you to also snap this QR code because we'd like to know a little more about you. To know more about you and how you've come upon us today. And so if you could snap that QR code, fill that out. And again, if you feel better to put in your questions in an email to either Lindsay or myself, that would be super. If you want to know more about some of these trainings that we've mentioned, get in touch with us, especially if you're in Ohio or Iowa. If not, you can look at the Google Coach page and find a coach near you, but we're always willing to help anyone that is interested in learning more about Google products. So please feel free to post your questions. I love that we have people from all over. I love that. Maybe you can go ahead.
We have a question. Will this training be available for replay? And yes, definitely. We will be putting the recordings on our YouTube channel, Main Street America's YouTube channel, as well as the Grow with Google landing page, which we put in the chat earlier. And we'll also make sure to send it out to all registrants and attendees.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. If has anyone tried AI? Anyone tried Bard? Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you want to post that in the chat, let us know what you think of Bard within reason. We'd be interested if you've tried it. I use it pretty much every day in my business and working with my clients because it's a great starter. So I really like it.
I used it to do a little bit of target market research. I just did a search for like how many women live in my city, and it gave me a lot of really great information. Just you can do like little experiments on, if you're really trying to target a specific demographic, then you can kind of type that in and use the information that kicks back. So you might learn some new things about your community. First time I heard about it, not yet super excited to try it. Awesome.
Yep.
Matt says the AI stuff is so interesting. Can't wait to hear more on how small businesses are using it. And Laramie, Wyoming here, have not tried yet, but thanks for sharing. Definitely worth a try, I would say.
It is. If you want to do something fun, it's not necessarily business oriented. Just ask it to plan a trip for you to somewhere. Pick the place. Tell it if you want to fly, how many people are going. You can even pick dates and ask it to find interesting things for you to do. And it will put together a whole trip itinerary, including your flight choices, pictures of where they think you should go, and a whole thing. What used to take weeks will take you 3 minutes.
Do you know who will own the copyright after you use it, especially if you will use it to create content for yourself or your clients?
So, I mean, Lindsay, you might have a comment on this. If you use it fairly straight up from what Bard gave you, then the appropriate thing to do is say that it was an AI wrote it. I mean, that you used an AI to produce that, is to really cite the AI. If you change it significantly, which I often do, I often change a lot of it myself and just use it as an outline or starter. Then it becomes more my work, because it was just like a guide. But you have to determine how much you kept from the original AI versus how much you added to it. Lindsay, do you have other thoughts on that?
Yeah, my husband calls this the blinking cursor syndrome, where there's like a blank screen and the cursor's like blinking and it's patronizing you about like, you don't have any ideas. That I like to use AI just to get an idea on the page. I mean, that's really helpful to when you're sometimes 0 to 1 is the hardest part, the hardest piece of writing something. But once it gets you going, then the idea is for you to take it and make it your own. And so while it saves you time, you still should be proofreading and editing and changing things around. And I think that removes the worry about copyright. If you make it sound like yourself. So yes, it would have been actually they it would have been fantastic in college. My daughter is actually in college, and they have when they submit their papers now, they have to send it through and like a detector, and they get in huge trouble if they use AI. So it would have been nice to at least get you from that 0 to 1, sure, like get you a few paragraphs on the page, but they do have restrictions on that.
I feel like the thesis statement, or even the research, it's a good tool for research. And the latest update to Bard, if you ask it to do some research, as you did, Lindsay, I believe you were talking about kind of researching the number of women in Ottumwa. If you use it for that, then there's actually a button to then check it on Google search, and it'll go check different pieces and parts and actually tell you where that information came from. So you can try to verify, make sure that research is good. And then you can write your paper from the research. I think it shortcuts some of the research piece a great deal.
That's a good point. So we've got about 1 minute left. Does anybody else have any more questions, or Matt or Monica or anybody want to?
Love this discussion. Thank you all for participating.
It's really great. Okay, well, thank you guys for being here. We are excited to be coaches and excited to be providing this information from you. Make sure you share the replay with your friends or anybody that you think would benefit from the information. We definitely want to share this far and wide. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight.